Salut à tous et bienvenue à ma chaîne, c'est Toshike et aujourd'hui je vais te montrer cet article, The Genetic Ancestry of African Americans, Latinos and European Americans across the United States. This article is very important and very informative in the discussion about who is MGM, who is monoracially black, who is mixed, etc., etc. I do see some comments on my channel and other channels and just in social media in general, always trying to tell another person what they should identify as, who they should identify with, what they look like, what they don't look like, without any regards to the DNA test, and even with regards to the DNA test that individual may have taken, such as myself. I took a DNA test and I made a whole video about it. There's still additional context that needs to be made because let's be honest, when it comes to racial identity and ethnicity, that has to be understood within the context of the country that you're living in. So I understand that, if I were to travel to, another country, or if I were to travel in Africa, I may or may not be seen as black. But here in America, this article will show you why certain individuals who may not be deemed as black in other countries would be deemed as black in America. Okay, and what you'll see is that the goalpost for blackness keeps moving and moving and moving and moving around, and it keeps changing. And I think that that's a good thing. I think that it has always been like that in America, but for the first time in a long time, black people are hesitant, somewhat hesitant, to claim, mixed people, or to let other people tell the narrative of who is black and who isn't, which is another reason why I love this article so much. Now, I want to tell you what's going on here, okay? So the summary conclusion that I'm really talking about here from this article is that in America, the average black American has about 73.2% African DNA. Okay, so at the end they start talking about genetic ancestry, and it says genome-wide ancestry estimates of African Americans show average proportions of 73.2% African, 24% European, and 0.8% Native American ancestry. And when I saw that and looked at my DNA test, I was like, yeah, no, that's true. That's exactly true, because my own DNA results reflect something similar to that. And again, if you want to see what my DNA results are or were, well, I guess are, because they haven't changed, go to my video. I went through Ancestry DNA. This is very interesting. My partner also did a DNA test, and he had maybe 1% more African DNA that I did, and he is a dark-skinned black man. Okay, but how did they get a hold of this information? Like, how did they come to this conclusion? So you'll find that out in the abstract. Okay, so basically what they did is they studied the genetic ancestry of 5,269 self-described African Americans. Okay, we're not really talking about Latinos or European Americans right now, but these 5,269 self-described African Americans were not just random. They were also 23andMe customers. Okay, so they also took a DNA test. And from a statistics point of view, 5,000 is a large enough sample base. That's large enough, okay, from a statistics point of view. And if you took probability and statistics, you know that 5,000 is enough. It's kind of towards the lower spectrum, like of the minimum, towards the minimum sample size that you would need, but it meets the requirement. Okay, and so they also showed that the legacy of these historical interactions were visible in the genetic ancestry of present-day Americans. So a lot of times when you take your DNA test, it will show you which communities you belong to. I also show that in my DNA reveal video as well, so they can tell which countries you were in and how, you know, that country's cultural context may have influenced your racial identity. Okay? But this is very interesting, and I highly recommend that you read this article, because I'm not going to read through it all the way. A lot of the, I'm not going to read it all the way on video online, but basically they were asked to fill out web-based questionnaires, okay, and they allowed their genetic data and survey responses to be used. So this is not the same self-reporting as, oh yeah, I'm just going to say whatever, even though I haven't really collected information. No, they collected the information, they did the DNA test, and they sent it over to the research facilities. Okay, so self-reported ancestry, you know, this is oftentimes it's deemed as not exactly reliable. However, when you have your DNA test, you can't really go against that. Okay, so they chose to maximize their available self-reported ethnicity sample size by combining information from questions asking for customer self-reported ancestry. Okay, so they used different nomenclature in 2 different survey questions to elicit like a different type of response about identity, because we know that this is subjective, you know. So not only did they want to collect the DNA test, but they also wanted to see, okay, we got your DNA, thank you so much, but what do you see yourself as? Do you count yourself as Black? Okay, and I think this is where things kind of get out of hand. Look at this second question that they asked. What best describes your ancestry or ethnicity? African, African American, declined, East Asian, multiple ancestries, not sure, on and on and on. And I think it's interesting, you know, that, you know, there are some people who selected African American and some people who selected African. Honestly, the DNA is going to be, you know, different because Africans will have more African DNA. So that begs the question, are these 2 different races? It has always been my personal opinion that, you know, Africans are not exactly the same race as African Americans. I do believe that as Black Americans, we are multi-generationally mixed, because 85% mix is still some type of admixture, but that doesn't mean that I can't refer to myself as Black, because this is my country. I'm the one who has to live in it in America, and my family had to live in it. My mother's mother had to live in it. Her mom's mom had to live in it. And from the time they were born, they were always called Negro or Black. Okay, so I'm not letting go of that label that quickly until I feel as if I want to change it. And so that's another thing. Never let someone tell you how to identify, because there's a lot of historical context and cultural context that goes behind these labels. Look, when I say Black, I'm not talking about Africans. 85%. I'm barely somewhat kind of maybe talking about Caribbeans. As you know, I'm also half Haitian, and just from my experience, my Haitian family, they do not really call themselves Black, they call themselves Haitian. There's an understanding that they share a diaspora with Africans and with Black Americans, but they're Haitian first before they're Black. All right. But yeah, let's look at this article. They had some other interesting things in here. Like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing on the video, but they said something very interesting about like the distribution of where these people are. Yeah, so they get really in depth in this article. Like they even talk about you know, non-European ancestry and African Americans and like where it comes from, all of that. Let's see. Yeah, so they basically found systematic differences in among African American ancestry. They found that those of us who are living in the South have more, or have the highest levels of African ancestry in America, and then those of us who were, you know, further up north had lower amounts Yeah, so I'm not surprised by that. That's why, when people say, oh, you're not black or you're light skinned, so obviously you're mixed. I'm just like, my light skin has nothing to do with my with me having an admixture, because there are tons of other black Americans who have the same or similar admixture or even less African DNA than I do, and they still have dark skin. So it boggles my mind how every time, nowadays, when people see a light-skinned black person with 4C hair or with a big nose and big lips and other African features, that they automatically think, oh, well, because you have light skin, you're mixed. There are actually quite a few content creators now who also think that way, and they'll try to use like images off of Google to show what indigenous people look like. But the truth is, black Americans are far from anything indigenous. So we shouldn't even be trying to compare anything to indigenous anything. If you have light skin as a black person, it most likely is not coming from any particular admixture. Like, it's not, your admixture was probably not the determining factor in your light skin. And we're going to talk about that in another video, because I'm collecting research talking about the origins of light skin that may very well surprise many of you who have been conditioned to believe that light skin as a black person automatically means that, master was, violating your female ancestors, or that, the men in your family were doing epigenetics by violating non-black females. Yeah, that's not the case for all of us, right? And it may not even be the case for you. And this is so interesting to me. I just can't wait. I'm getting so excited just talking about it. But I'll go ahead and leave the link to this article in the description down below. And if you want me to do a deeper dive of this article, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm considering opening up a Patreon for more long form content, or we can really just like hash things out. But again, this is from the National Library of Medicine. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. And as always, have an amazing day.